Keepie Uppies with Richie and Tots.
Absolutely delighted to welcome Ryan Hanna from Tummery Athletic. It's our final instalment of October West to give a bit of exposure to some of the fantastic teams in the Modern and Western League. So Ryan, welcome. Absolutely delighted you're joining us.
Cheers, Niall. Looking forward to it. Thanks for reaching out and looking forward to a trip down memory lane and talking all things football. So thanks for the invite.
No bother. So we're going to start you off with a nice easy one, Ryan. Unfortunately, I know your answer, but for those of us that don't know the answer, what team do you support? And also, who was your football hero growing up?
For me troubles, I'm a Liverpool fan. It's been, luckily, the last couple of years, it's been more good than bad, but it's been a barn 20 odd years, I would say, compared to other clubs. So no, I'm a Liverpool fan. My first probably real memory of Liverpool was probably in '95. I think it might have been a League Cup final against Bolton, the 1-2-1. My first probably positive memory of Liverpool, and then I remember crying at this because I was in the pub with my dad watching it, and he's a United fan. The '96 FA Cup final, where Cantona got the winner in the infamous cream suits. So that would be my first kind of memory of Liverpool. My hero, probably because he plays in midfield, and you know he kind of carried Liverpool for I don't know how many years. It was Steven Gerrard. Just everything about him, it was all or nothing on the pitch. He was a leader, score goals, box to box, could defend, crunching tackles, so many memorable moments. He's a hero for, I'd say, in my generation anyway. I would say easily 90-95% of Liverpool fans. So that's my favourite team and hero, Niall.
And funny, you must be sort of around the same age as me. I'm 36, so because that was kind of one of my first, I suppose, positive memories was that League Cup final. Because I remember Steve McManaman scored two brilliant goals in that game against Bolton. I remember David James had a really good game as well. I remember him standing out, and I ended up buying on the back of that cup final. I ended up my first Liverpool top was a goalkeeper top, strangely enough, and I'd got David James on the back. And then, of course, remember a year later, I was exactly like yourself, as in tears. The fact that we lost the final, but against Man United as well. All my mates were United men, unfortunately, and it just was. I still, even to this day, get stick about that cup final. It was an awful, awful match, but as you said, Cantona sort of popped up with the goods, unfortunately. Can you remember your first Liverpool top?
What was my first Liverpool top? I think my first Liverpool top now I can't remember the season, but it was the away one with the green and white, the green and white squares.
Yeah, it's 95,
not sure
96.
What season it was.
That was the FA Cup final, yeah.
Probably would have been around that time. So that was my first one. I don't think who I had in the back, but I'm not sure I've had anybody in the back of it, to be honest, But now I remember that kit. I think Mum actually has that somewhere. She might have it in the attic still, just along with all the other memorabilia. So no, that was my first. I love that kit. It's still one of my favourites. So yeah, not too memory favourable winnable moments in it, but still a lovely kit, all the same.
Some of the footy kits from back in the 90s was classic. The goalkeeper tops especially, which I think is why I kind of gravitated to the goalie tops as well. But yeah, it was some entertaining times during those kind of late 90s under Roy Evans, a couple of 4-3 classics against Newcastle. But you talked about Stevie G there being your hero. I've got to get your view, being a manager yourself, player manager. What did you make of did you think his time was up at Aston Villa? And there's been all this talk about him potentially managing Liverpool someday. Do you think that kind of scuppers that, or is it too early to say? Do you think?
Look, it was for me. He had to go. When a Premier League club comes knocking, and what he done at Rangers, I suppose, for where they came from to try and get that league title back off Celtic, and then on the back of that to get the job offer at Aston Villa, he couldn't turn it down. Now, to be honest with you, I do think the players let him down a wee bit, especially when you see how they performed the other day. But it's a fickle world, Niall. Whether it's professional or local, if results aren't going your way, you can perform the best, but it's all about results, and he wasn't getting them. Now, I would have maybe say a soft spot for Stevie G. I would have given him a few more games, but maybe the owners, the club weren't thinking that. They're thinking sustainability and where they were, and you drop out of the Premier League and you see how long it can take for some clubs to bounce back, if ever. So, but yeah, in terms of denting his future credentials and with a maybe potential Liverpool job, I think that's how everybody would see it. He embodied everything that Liverpool Football Club were at one stage, and I think if he didn't get an opportunity, it wouldn't dent his legacy, but I think he would deserve it to a certain extent. But then we'll see how it goes over the next few years. You don't know what path he would take or what path Liverpool will be on by then. So, but I would like to see him manage the club one day, definitely.
Yeah, I suppose only time will tell. But it's just interesting to see sort of what, I suppose, move he makes next, whether maybe he just takes a bit of time out or drops down a division or two. But even if you drop down into the Championship, it's a tough league as well. When you look at some of the sides in it, there's sides that it only seems like yesterday there's established Premier League teams, so it's so even if he was to drop down, I suppose it's not going to be easy, but only time will tell. But so what about yourself, Ryan? Take us back. What's your earliest, I suppose, football memory growing up, and take us through your own kind of youth career and best moments growing up in the underage groups.
I suppose, Niall, my earliest memory would have been playing for Enniskillen Town, United. It would have been Colts probably back then. Would have been a youth setup. In fairness to them, the club were ahead of its time, and probably had one of the best youth setups locally. So I remember going to Saturday morning Celtic Park. It's a local council-owned grass pitch, synonymous for the area because there's kind of a dip in it, and it's been like that for ever since. But remember great coaches like John Ireland and Paul Keepie, God rest them, and we were probably getting coaching ahead of our time for the age that we were at. Some of the great youth players that have come out of the club since that, but that would have been my earliest memory. Now, we weren't fortunate enough to have games probably back then, Niall, so I think the earliest memory from games we would have been when you moved into like from P7 to first year, and it would have been like under 13 within the Brendan Keogh. Now, we always had the battle of trying to compete with Ballinamannard, and that was always our difficulty, and we rarely got the better of them. Unfortunately, over my whole kind of playing time in the youth. Now, we did have a successful cup win. I was playing a year young, and I can't remember the year, but I remember playing at St Julian's Road, where Roma Town used to play, and we played against the rivals Enniskillen Rangers. So that would have been probably one of my earliest memories, playing a year young. Now, I was in the squad, but I wasn't in the squad, if you know what I mean. I came along, and that would probably be my earliest memory. But I love that time. Of friends for life, and still best friends that I played with at Enniskillen Town, and they're still friends today. And some of the great games we had, you'll never forget that. And you mightn't have the medals to show for it, but you'll always have the memories, and that's what probably my earliest memory of football was Celtic Park and John Ireland and Paul Keepie.
Fantastic. That's a good point you actually make as well about, yeah, it's fantastic winning and, having medals to look back on, but ultimately though, it really is about the memories and kind of the friendships that you build. And we'll kind of touch on this guy shortly, Whitey Anderson. That was one thing he kind of hammered home to me as well. And when I was chatting to him on the podcast about I suppose he says it took him a bit of time to maybe realise it, but he realised actually, it is about creating these memories and these special moments. And I suppose it's only when you kind of reflect on it, like you're doing now, that you actually realise, they're special times. Yes, you want to win the trophies, but you can't beat the memories and the friendships along the way.
100%. And look, yes, winning's great, but it's a reason why a lot of us get into sport. But when you start to look back and you start to come to the end of your youth playing career or your senior adult playing career, you actually look back all the moments and that didn't involve women or winning and all the great memories that you did have. So yeah, as I said, we didn't have too many trophies to show for it, but there were great times, and I wouldn't change them. And as I said, I've still some friends there today. So that was kind of the pathway. I suppose back then, as I said, maybe the club were a bit ahead of their time in terms of then that when the years moved on, there was a really good conveyor belt that moved into senior football and all that. And I would have a fond memory now of playing underage football on a Saturday morning and then going playing for our third team, Enniskillen Town's third team back then, which was known, famously as the C team, because it was just the conveyor belt for the youth and the next step up. And I would have always done that on Saturday mornings, and that's how I progressed into senior football.
Yeah, it's funny how you could just churn out 2 games a day, whereas now me and Richie were playing over 35 football. I hate even saying over 35 football, and then somebody in work says it's the veteran team, and that even sounds worse. So we can just about, you see, if we have like a game, usually we only have 2 games a month, but even at that, the 2 games a month can be pretty tight. And you see, if we play, the games are on a Sunday, with training on a Tuesday, you get you see, if we have a match on a Sunday, you get nobody at training on the Tuesday. We're still done for about 2 weeks. But back in the younger days, yeah, you were turning out maybe you could have been playing maybe Gaelic or something. It could have been a Friday night and then maybe 2 games on a Saturday, and it was no bother to you. You just got on with it. So what about then, as you progress then through the youth team into kind of the senior setup? Take us through where your career kind of took you on to.
Yeah, so there's a well known with Enniskillen Town. He lives and breathes the club. Would be Jerry Scone Conley, and he would have been taking a lot of youth teams, and he would have been the C team manager for a long time. And I remember cutting my teeth at senior level, and we probably would have been the youngest reserve team or third team at that level, because we were cutting our teeth, and you're playing against people maybe at the twilight of their career. So it was a learning curve, and then slowly as I developed as a player, I moved into the reserves, and that stage was a really strong reserve team. With great managers over the years. I would have had Kenny Whiskey McClintock, but had a really good reserve team, and I think it went unbeaten for maybe 2 seasons at one stage. And I had Ozzie Corrigan, who was a great player for the club as well, and Emmett Carty would have been managing a joint managers reserve team then, and we had success. We won leagues, reserve leagues, and we would have won the Rehill Cup, which is the local reserve cup here in Fermanagh and Western. So I had good times, and I did get good success there, and there was great memories. And I suppose you were starting to go from really tailing into adult football, and you can remember the celebrations, and maybe when you were allowed a wee drink, and those were great nights. At that time, there was a really high standard within the club. I remember the quality and the numbers of training. You could have had 30, 40, 50 at training at times, given the amount of teams and the youth coming through. So Enniskillen Town was flying at that stage. And it was, suppose, when I started to break into the first team, it would have been the tail end of a really, really strong 5-in-a-row team. So the won 5 leagues in a row here, and it's the Mercer League, it's known locally. So that would have been around, and I think 2008, probably 2008, 2009. And that team that won 5 in a row actually made 2 junior cup finals. Now they were beaten both, but they were made 2 junior cup finals over that time. So look, it's really successful. Memorable moments trying to cut my teeth and making into the first team. And I suppose after that, Niall, I was a wee bit barren for a couple of years. You had a really strong Lisbon team from memory that won, I think, won 3 in a row in the league. And then I really strong Strathroy Harps team, which you may know, that they won a junior cup around that early 2010. I think it was maybe 2011, 2012. So we were coming up against some of the strongest teams locally, and I suppose in the country at that stage. So probably the first real team that I felt strongly a part of, a winning team, was the Enniskillen Town team of 2012-13. We done the league and cup double, and that was really special time, because it was the first time, I think, since maybe, I can't even remember the last time the club done the double before that, maybe 10 years before that. So that's kind of a brief kind of synopsis. I suppose I could move on and continue to talk about, that period there was success. We'd been to 4 Mulhern Cup finals in a row. We won 3 in a row. I scored in 3 of them. So that, they were really, really positive, memorable times, from winning perspective, and playing in good teams with really good players and at really high standard.
Yeah, I was just looking at the kind of the archives of the Fermanagh and Western, and you're right, it was sort of, I think it ran from about sort of 2005 through to 2009, 2010, when you won those 5 Division 1 titles in a row. It sounds like you had a fantastic kind of infrastructure there between kind of the thirds, great youth setup, and obviously a very strong first team. Was that key to I suppose that really successful period, that you had this fantastic young players coming through, which pushed the reserves, which in turn pushed the first team players? What was key, I suppose, to that success, or was it just boiled down to just having a fantastic group of players, great mentality, and obviously on top of that, you must have had some brilliant managers as well?
I suppose, Neil, there was a number of things. One, there was probably less clubs locally, which means you had a bigger pool and a bigger catchment. And that's not taking away any of the work that was done with the club, but no, the conveyor belt and the standard of youth training, I suppose it was. Always a good saying is the club is only as strong as its youth, and that's probably the catalyst for the success of Enniskillen Town around that period, because that sustained the club at all levels, at all ages, with numerous teams. And now there was a really fantastic group of players throughout all those age groups. If I can think above mine and below mine, there was always quality players, including the players in my own team. Now, if you get 1 or 2 players out of each age group that go on to make first team appearances, you're doing well. I would say the percentage of those players within that club, I'd say, was a lot higher that went on to make first team football. So look, that was one thing. Probably 2, the competitive nature. Like, I remember when I was coming onto the scene, when I'd maybe went past me C team phase and I was in the reserves and I was looking to get into the first team. Like, every time I trained, I was ready to kill. And that's how I think that I wasn't the only one like that. So that competitive nature, but then there was good communication, there was good levels of structure between the first team manager, reserve manager, and C team regarding who played well, who deserves a chance. If you weren't training, you weren't playing, and I think that all embodied the success. Now, don't get me wrong, can't remember when Jerry Love took over. It might have been around that first time they won the league. He brought in there was a really strong pool of players there, that there was a great balance in the first team between, experience, bringing in some youth, pace, skill, hard, a few journeymen as well. So, look, to be honest with you, 5 in a row, being a player manager now and seeing how hard it is to win a league with any team, that is a massive achievement, and I don't think it'll be done again anytime soon, to be honest.
And Ran, I've got to ask you, what is your position? Is it sort of, were you like a Stevie G? Were you attacking midfielder? And has it changed a wee bit now as time has gone on?
I think the older you get, the further you go back. But no, I would have been hard to describe myself as a midfielder, but I'd say I'm energetic. I'm hard working, but I'm a midfielder. So when I was younger, I probably would have been more defensive, kind of, or a box to box kind of energetic pressing midfielder, kind of done a bit of everything, but not really good or really good at anything, if you know what I mean. So I just done the basics really well. So, I've always probably complimented best if I had an attacking midfielder in with me, one that could go on beyond and penetrate the lines and score goals. And, I was kind of more of a controlled 6 or an 8, if you want to go and call it that. But, during that successful time, when I was playing for Enniskillen Town, I had a period in the middle where I was scoring goals in the middle, and then I went out to the right because I always had a decent standard of conditioning and I could do a job on the right, and I probably played a lot of my best football. Whether at that time I probably didn't like being out on the right, but I had so much success out there, goals and having big performances in big games. And so in hindsight, it's probably a good move putting me out there. It suited the team at the time. And but I prefer being in the middle now. I'm 34 now as of last week, and I would probably be sitting in the front of the back four, probably more so often than not. Now that I have a bit of better technical knowledge of the game and tactical knowledge of the game, you can sit and see things, and those player manager allows me to talk and communicate a wee bit better, so I can see most of the things in front of me, So that's how it's evolved, but that's where I'm normally playing. We'll see how it goes over the next 12, 24 months.
So you sound like like the Enniskillen James Milner by the sounds of things. Is that fair to say? And now maybe you're kind of merging into like a Neil Lennon, just sitting in front of the back four.
Probably is. I'm probably a bad man's James Milner and Jordan Henderson, probably. So that's not a bad reflection, in fairness.
So you've had some fantastic memories. I must take you back because we were kind of chatting about it before we went live there. You had a spell playing under Whitey Anderson at the Milk Cup. I've never played in the Milk Cup, played in the Foil Cup, but never the Milk Cup. It's kind of gutted about. But what was that experience like? That must have been great, being away. I'm assuming you kind of went away with the squad for obviously a couple of days, mixing in with probably fellas you were kicking lumps out of. What was the whole Milk Cup experience, and what's your kind of memories of the tournament?
Oh, it was amazing, Niall. Funny looking back, I always see myself as a late bloomer. I always thought as a player I wasn't ever the most talented, but I was always the most hardworking, and I probably got better with the age. But looking back now, actually, that Milk Cup team, and we had a really strong management team. You had Whitey Anderson was manager, you had Jog Quinn, you had Francie Shaw, guys that were ahead of their time. And there's stuff that I remember doing that believe it or not, that those training sessions that I think, that's still relevant now. So Whitey was always destined to go on and climb the ladder in terms of coaching ladder and go on and do what he done with Ballinamannard and in America, etc. But Whitey was Marmite. He didn't take any. There was no prisoners. But in that team now, just to bring it back, I captained that. I think it was 2003. That Junior Milk Cup team, and I think it was the 21st anniversary or something like that of the Milk Cup, because you actually got to play the first game in your own county. So I remember we had Charlton at Fernie Park. I just remember having the pendant and going up for the toss, and I was, it does fill you full of pride looking back, and you probably didn't appreciate it as much at the time. You're worried about what kind of boots you had bought and were the best boots at the time, whether the latest Adidas Predators or whatever, but it was great memories in that week, and some of the guys. And funny, we talked about sustainability there in football, and it was maybe last year, I think I've seen a picture of that squad, and I think there's only 1 or 2 lads actually still playing football, and continued to play football, for a long time after that, which is a pity. And I remember the senior squad that day, they played Bayern Munich as well. So look, there was great memories, and Whitey, as I said, was a great manager. Even John there, and Francie Shaw he was probably at that stage strength and conditioning, but again, he was ahead of the time. Some of the testing we were doing, and I have a wee bit of background on strength and conditioning, and again, some of the things that we were doing then are probably valid now, to a less extent, but he was ahead of the time. So we were well looked after, and some great times, and it's a great week. And probably the biggest regret and I would recommend this to any young person or anybody that's gets the chance to go to the Milk Cup. Always try for every age group you're eligible for. A year young, that's what I regret doing. I only tried for the year that I was my age group, so to speak. I regret not going for the year young and the year young. I was trying to go 4 times because I only made it twice, and I know 2 times is more than some, but it's such a magical experience. And you know, whether you're a brilliant footballer or you're not, just to be subjected to that standard and the organisation, and even then you see players beside you that are getting scouted, and some people just take it up a level. And you know, the likes of, remember our maybe second Milk Cup, Andy Little, and that's the time he was scouted for Rangers. And yeah, some great times.
It's actually a good point. Actually, you know, I was kind of the same. I only kind of went for trials when it was my age group, but I never actually. That's a good point. Because I suppose, even as you said, even if you don't make the squad, if you go like a year before, it can kind of give you an idea then of kind of the standard that you need to aim for, maybe when you go back the following year.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I don't think there's any harm can come out of trying, because you'll always be, you know, knowledge is power at times, and sometimes it's the fear of the unknown to stop people from going.
Yeah, and then I suppose even for the, you know, the selection kind of committee, the coaching team, whoever's involved, you know, that your name will already be, if you do well, but maybe don't make the squad, at least that you're kind of known for. Because I'd say a lot of the time, I'd say those kind of selectors would know who they're picking, or probably 80% of the squad's probably already picked beforehand. So it's maybe kind of getting your name out there. But yeah, that's good advice, good sound advice. So obviously at some point then you moved on then from Enniskillen Town. So kind of talk us through that, how that came about, and it must have been kind of a tough decision.
It was, Niall. I never ever envisaged myself leaving. You know, it was a club that I've been at since I was able to kick football, and you know, I've got family connections with my uncle and different things that would have been involved with the club. You know, but I suppose you get older, you get a chance to reflect, and at that stage, I just felt that I wasn't enjoying it as much as I could have been, rightly or wrongly. And I just felt like I was getting a bit stagnant myself, you know. So I had Tummery connections weren't really there. I had known Jerry McCullough through, you know, he's a local business that I would know. Jerry would be well known locally, and another fella, Connor Sludden, was locally known as Dodger, and I would have worked with Dodger. And at that time, they had a new manager, Benny McElhone. Benny McElhone would have been synonymous with the local leagues. Benny would have captained the Strathroy Harps team to that back-to-back junior cup from memory. So, you know, Benny was a player that local players would have looked up to. He was quality, but he was a no-nonsense kind of character. And I remember Benny approaching me and just kind of asking, you know, he could be thinking about leaving. And I called into his gym one day, and we had a good conversation. And I just thought I was getting to the age then, Niall, that, you know, I think, and for me, to move, I would have maybe still got a chance to play for a club that wasn't in Fermanagh, which I felt like it was a bit of a respectful thing to do from my point of view. I wasn't going to Enniskillen Rangers or Lisbon at that time. Would have been, and that's no disrespect to Tummery, because at that time Benny was really trying to build a team that was going to push on all fronts, which they nearly did a couple of years before that. So I just got good vibes. I spoke to a few people at the club, and I just thought, why not? You know, even if it's for 12 months and I didn't like it, or I thought I'd make a mistake, you know, I think sometimes you have to take the risk to get the reward. But it's better to do that than not to try at all, you know, and that's what I've done. And, you know, to be honest, it's one of the best things I ever done. Again, that's no disrespect to anybody in Enniskillen Town, and I love my time there, and I won a lot of things. But my memories of Tummery have been amazing. I'm a blow into Ramore, but I see myself as a Tummery man through and through. and have been for the last couple of years, and I just enjoy everything about the club. I think, you know, I have a great relationship with the committee and the fans and the players, and you know, I know when I'm kind of jumping on a wee bit. So I think that was around 2017. I'm not great with me years, Neil, but I think it was around 2017 I moved, and Benny McElhone managed us for that year. And we did have a really good, with a couple of other players that signed, like good friends of mine, with, you know, Cahill Beacom signed, and Kieran Beacom, and you know, we had a really strong team, and we let ourselves down in the league that year. And we should have done better, and we went on to win the Mulhern Cup, and it was actually against Enniskillen Town, so it was there was a couple of different facets to that game. Just there were a couple of and then Benny actually left. You know, Strathroy Harps would have been his club, as I said, and he actually went back to manage them the year after, and Jerry Love took over. Now, Jerry Love had managed me partly at the tail end of that 5 in a row team, Niall, and Jerry came in, and there was again a fantastic squad there. We'd kept for that 2018-19. It's one of the most memorable years I've played in, because it's been recent as well, and probably didn't have the success that we should have had. Like the team that had, the quality in that team was unbelievable. It was probably one of the best teams I ever played in, and unfortunately we only went on to win the Mulhern Cup after playing, you know, every game we could have played. We got to the Junior Cup final that year, and Rangers beat us under contentious, I suppose, controversial circumstances. The way the whole final date had been pushed back that year due to appeals and different things, and we were pipped for the title that year as well. We slipped up a couple of times in the run-in, so look, that was an early year. And then after that, Jerry was still there. 2019, lost a few players, and then Jerry and the club parted company in October 2019, and then that's when I was offered the role as player manager.
And I suppose I was going to ask you as well, you know, when you were coming towards the end of or I suppose hitting your 30s, when you know obviously you haven't too many more seasons left in the tank, were you kind of thinking about management even at that stage, or was it something that wasn't entering your mind? It wasn't until, I suppose, they offered you the chance to manage the team?
No, I wasn't thinking about it, Niall, to be honest. Now, as I said, I would have, you know, through my time done, I suppose it probably led from when I was in uni. I would have done like a fitness instructor course, and that's where my kind of coaching kind of habits came from. And I kind of tailed from there. I would have took warm-ups for different teams. That was Gaelic, that was soccer. I would have been interested in the fitness side, so then I went and done PT and strength conditioning and things like that. And I had a kind of knowledge base that maybe some others didn't. And I suppose I was taking warm-ups, and I suppose I was the type of player on the pitch. I was a leader, I was quite vocal. And maybe that's what maybe Tummery had seen in me through the 2 or 3 years that I was there. But no, Nell, to be honest with you, like 2019 at October, I was only 30 or 31. So no real intentions of management at that stage. Look, maybe further afield, you know, I'm thinking maybe doing my badges and getting through that, and I'm thinking about it. But at that stage, I was still very much focused on playing. And as you said, like, you don't think you feel any less fit. It's just the recovery between what you do now is so much longer. So yeah, I think that was a factor in it as well. That, you know, I still felt fit and I still was playing at a decent level. So management wasn't really on the horizon for me, to be honest.
Yeah, as you said, as you get a bit older, it takes a bit longer. As me and Richie will testify, it takes us about 2 or 3 weeks to get over a 35/veterans match. With a game yesterday, and God, it was tight. I'm still feeling it. But so you were offered the job. Then was it an easy decision? Was it a tough decision? Because I suppose yes, you were a leader, you were skipper. You know, you had all those leadership qualities, but it's very different being a player, captain, and then transition into kind of a managerial role where you're kind of having to try and keep 16 boys happy. You know, you're picking your starting 11 every week, which can't be easy. Um, how was that? Did you have to kind of stew over for a wee bit, or was it an easy decision in the end up?
Um, no, I did stew, I have to admit, because it was one of them things where, I said when you move into management, it's nearly harder to step back to go to player again. Once you're in it, you're probably then transition to full manager, if you know what I mean. So that was something I was conscious of, and I didn't really want to do that too early. I was really focused on playing, and I was enjoying playing at that stage. I was playing well, and I can remember playing well. So no, I did have to stew, Niall, to be honest. I was chuffed, and I was immensely proud, to be asked. As I said, I was only in the club a couple of years, and anybody knows locally, like, the respect that Jerry McCullough has as a player across the last 15, 20 years in the Fermanagh and Western, and he made a phone call, and me and Jerry had a good chat, and I suppose sometimes when people say things about you and see things in you that you maybe don't see yourself, you have to turn around and take a think about it. So I did, and I'm a believer. I try to the laws of attraction and attracting things, and maybe it was something that I attracted towards me, and it was an opportunity. The door was laying open, so I was never going to close it. So I thought, walk through it. So what's the worst that can happen? And at that time, and it's just no disrespect to Jerry, because he's won far more in local football than I have, probably playing and managing. But there's things at that stage thinking that, like, I would do that differently. But I was saying that introvertly, I would do that differently, or, I wouldn't do it that way. And that's how I was seeing things in my head. So maybe I was starting to think about the management style a wee bit more without actually realising it until I kind of got the offer. So, as I said, it ended up being an easy decision after stewing about it. And as I said, it's one of the best things I've ever done. It's so mentally stimulating, challenging, but extremely rewarding as well. I'm obviously lucky to have a good club around me and good committee and really good group of players since that time. And I've had some good times, and I suppose it's when you don't maybe get the good times, I'll see how I am in it then and what I'm like mentally. But to take it on, to be honest with you, Niall, I just tried to be a manager that I would like to be managed by when I was a player, and that's kind of the approach I took. I wasn't autocrat, and I wasn't too laissez-faire, but I would see myself as open, transparent, honest, and that's, I think, has stood to me to a certain extent. So yeah, that's how it came about, and that's how the decision was made.
And you haven't done too bad in your first couple of seasons.
No, I haven't.
Two league titles. It's not bad. So what have you kind of? You've obviously taken the management pretty easily, and I suppose it shows how well Tummery have think of you. Because it would have been, I suppose, easy to appoint maybe somebody internally or somebody with experience. So they obviously seen something in you, and that's been proven by the trophies that you've delivered so far. And the team, obviously, and your coaching team, they all play a part, but they obviously seen something in you.
Yeah, and I suppose that was a big thing. That's the thing that resonated with me. And as I said, for other people to see something in you maybe don't see yourself, they had to respect that and go, you know what, I'm going to have to give this a go. And as you mentioned there, like, the club gave me the autonomy to control the first team as I see it and as I wish, and that's been the beauty about it. I have a fantastic group of volunteers and backroom team that are brilliant, and I couldn't do the podcast without mentioning them. Damien Hunter, Seamus Bradley, Connor Sludden, Mark Maguire, like, them guys are the backbone for me. Trainings, having equipment ready, ordering new equipment, being up at training, all the things that go unnoticed, but to me are the most important things, and I always will notice them because I couldn't do the job without them. The kit's there on a Saturday, it's hung up, helping sort the Comet system for me, The pitch is immaculate, which we have our own grounds there, and the guys look after it themselves, and lining it and cutting it and trying to make sure that it's in a great condition for us to play the football we want to play. You know, that is the foundation, and that's why I probably took the management as well as I did, because I had that foundation, Niall. In my own, suppose, style, I probably had a style that I wanted to play. It's evolved, obviously, in the last couple of years, and studying and doing different things, and how the team's changed as well. So we changed to that. But look, as I said, it wasn't anything reinventing the wheel. It was just giving guys sometimes a focus and a purpose, and knowing everybody has knowing a role individually and collectively, and that can be so powerful. And we won games we shouldn't have won. We always try and make sure the guys are conditioned, but they're always going out, you know, fresh. And we, as I said, that first year was great, because from memory, I think we drew the first game. My first game was home to Strathspey Harps. We drew that game, and then we won every game up until, unfortunately, the league was pulled with about, like, there was 4 or 5 games to go, and we won it on the average points, or points per game. I think we had 4 points ahead with so many games to go. And look, at that stage, we were flying. We had momentum. We had everything. And it was just a shame that it was pulled so early, because to me, it wasn't tainted, because the points on the board, you can't remove what you'd already done. It was there in black and white. We were just denied the opportunity to finish off what would have been a really, really memorable first season for me and everybody else. But we celebrated like we won it, Niall, because we did. We had the points there, and those locally, obviously, that might have put an asterisk beside it. So COVID then disrupted the next season. I think we only got a couple of games and it was pulled. And then we come into last season, and obviously it was probably the biggest and toughest season of Man and Western yet. There was an extra 2 teams, which is an extra 4 games. We started earlier in the calendar. We had 4 games in the first 2 weeks. You know, and just the squad and some of the moments that we got through last year. We had, you know, I remember especially the end, we were playing, I think it was 4 of the top 5 in the last 5 games, and, you know, we needed to win. I think it was maybe, well, the way it worked out, you know, in the end, you know, we needed to win the last game of the season, but it was just so tough. But to go out and win it in that way was all the sweeter. To win it after what had happened in 2019-20, and to go that full season with the extra games, it was amazing. I'll never forget it. To get presented at your home ground with that, and the celebrations after, and the day after, it was amazing. So, you know, there is an extra, I don't know what it is, it's hard to describe. There is an extra kind of buzz or something intrinsically in you that, you know, to win as a player is amazing, but see, when you have an input and as a manager, there is that extra. It's extra special. So no, last year was amazing. So it was. So
yeah, I was just going to say there. You know, you won the league. Obviously, that COVID year. You know, whatever way it was going to work out, that's the way it was worked out. Average points. You know, you're still going down as league winners, but you know what people are like, maybe outside your football club. Well, the season wasn't finished. There's an asterisk there. But that must have made you even more determined, you know, when obviously you had the full season to hammer home, actually, well, we are the champions, and to do it 2 in a row must have made it all the sweeter.
oh, there's no doubt about it, Niall. But in fairness, my approach wasn't to retain it or to get one up on those that were saying X, Y, and Z. To me, it was forget about last year or the year that 2019-20. We attacked this one. We attacked this one like we've never won it before, and that's the mentality we went with. And you could see that there was a fire in everybody's eyes, every training session, every match, like, you know, and that was the focus, and it was never mentioned apart from the team goal setting at the start of the year, and apart from that, it was we focus on what we do on a daily, regular basis, our standards and our processes and our habits, and that's what's got us there. And it was a shame now, you know, we were beat by a really good Coal Island team and went on to win the Junior Cup, and then there was just an error basically of numerous errors, catalogue of errors in the Mulhern Cup, which showed us getting put out. But to win the league, I think we had more in the tank last year, and we had momentum with us. And I think if we'd kind of got over Coal Island, it could have been us doing that. But we were well beaten on the day. But no, it was really, really special. It was a really special group of players, and the teams changed massively from last year. And now we've lost a good core of players. Rory Sludden moving on to Ballinamannard and is doing really well for the first team. And Matty Callahan, who's with Dergview first team, has moved back to Five Mile Town, who you'll probably know well, in the Mid-Ulster League there. And we had a few retirements. We've lost 3 of the back 4. So this year's been a wee bit of transition, but it's been great because it's something different and new to get your teeth kind of stuck into. And you again forget about last year, and again that's gone, and you're attacking another season with new impetus and from some fresh blood, some really good signings. And we started the season reasonably well, so it's good, and that's what management's all about. It's changeable, and you have to be adaptable to different squads and different season and different circumstances. So it's challenging, but I think I enjoy the challenge of it, and it is definitely one of the best things I've done.
Brilliant. And I was just going to say to you, it must be, I'm only going by my experience of football management on Football Manager, Championship Manager, as it used to be back in the day. But, it does seem to be all the more satisfying as a manager. Do you think it's because obviously you have a bit more influence in terms of, putting the team together, the tactics together, the strategy together, and of course, I suppose you're putting so much energy into sort of preparing even for one game at the weekend, between organising training, maybe 2 sessions on top of whatever you're doing at home and work and whatever. It must make those victories all the sweeter. But on the flip side, I suppose, when it comes to maybe a few disappointing defeats, you must have a few sleepless nights, do you find? Whereas with a player, you kind of, you'll be a bit disappointed for a few hours after the game, but, few beers and it's soon forgotten about and you move on to training. But you maybe stew over it a bit more as a manager, do you find?
Oh, 100%. It's more special, Niall, than ask any local manager, regardless if you're reserve Division 3 or managing a top team in Division 1. The hours and level of commitment that's put into it is colossal. And that's not just the visible hours. You see the 90 minutes on a Tuesday night or on a Thursday night, and then the 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday, all the visible, but it's the stuff, behind that. It's, thinking about your session, from a Saturday, what we're working on that week, planning your session, sorting boys with physio and injuries, dealing with players full stop. You have to be a father, a brother, a social worker, a psychologist, a nutritionist. You're everything and all the time, and your phone's ding dust, and is the wife, because it's I've got better now, and I've set aside time on different days of the week where I'm on my phone, and then have to kind of put it away, because you'll be on it constantly, organising and texting and messaging and ringing, and that's part and parcel of it. It's kind of have to be all or nothing to get that success. And don't let anybody disrespect the kind of amateur game, because it's starting to take that more and more and more professional approach, and you'll see that especially in Fermanagh and Western, the amount of teams that have won the likes of the Junior Cup in the last 10, 15 years. That's not by chance or by fluke. It's the quality of the players in this league. It's the quality of the management. You've talked about the setups of some of the clubs, and the infrastructure that's there, the youth systems that they're going and getting great sponsorship, great committees. We've got like the likes of the VO that's there that the clubs are using, just not only record games and players love to see it, but it's a chance for us to, as managers, to look at it, highlight things, reflect, give players a chance to improve no matter what age you are. So there is endless amount of time and commitment now, and no doubt about it, it is more special, because not even the influence, but you think of the players in any collective group and think about the trust they put in you, and when something does go right and they back you in every kind of avenue that you want to kind of see your team playing in, then it's not an I, it's a we, and it's our, and it's us, and that's why it is so special.
Fantastic. Funny, I was just going to ask you about VO. There's obviously a lot of teams have that kind of um, at their club. How do you use it then? Because as you said, it's obviously a good opportunity to review games and maybe, if you've conceded a couple of goals, how things could be improved. How do you actually use it then? Would you sit down with your coaching team and look back over it, or do you sit down with the players at training, or what way do you kind of utilize it?
So I use it now. So we record our games. So what I will do then normally is after the guys have asked for a highlight of their goal or whatever it is the players want to see. That obviously the goal scorers want to see the goals, and the defenders want to see the clean sheet, keep and tackle. So
Marty Dock
but no,
he usually wants to see. Well, to be fair to him, he scored a couple of good goals.
Oh, he has. Marty must set his alarm for 5 a.m. to see if he's the first man to get the upload view. So
Sorry,
but
go
no,
on ahead.
that's right. Like it's another kind of incentive for the players. I know that sounds cheesy, but we're all competitive, and if you can get a chance to look back at something that you've done really well, and if it gets you an extra % or 2% from players on a Saturday having a VO on, then it's going to be a benefit. But no, I review it, so I'll sit down. I'd normally do it on a Monday evening. Actually, I would look over the game, and then I would do highlights. So the players are on video as players, and I tag them, and I can tag them in highlights in X, Y, and Z. Niall, you should have been here, there, or
Oh, come on.
here, there.
No, I'd have been in the right positions. You wouldn't have been.
So that's how we do it, and players get tagged and they can watch their highlights, and from that it gives me a focus on, there's certain things that I work on throughout the year, but then there's certain things from a Saturday. Like obviously Saturday was on paper for anybody outside would be seen as a big game, but to us and all intents and purposes it was just another game, but it was our first league defeat this year, and it's a really good opportunity. Losing is only a benefit when you can take the learnings from it. So that, and VO gives us an extra opportunity to do that. So it'll get extra scrutiny now today, or probably be Wednesday now, maybe by a chance to get a look at it, and then that'll feed into training then, maybe for tomorrow night or Thursday night, and dictate how the session goes, and that's how I use it now, and it's worked really well.
Brilliant. Thank God it wasn't out when I was playing under Richie. He could have had me dropped years before he did. But no, it's great even having these things, I think, for players, but as well for managers and coaches. So it's fantastic. And to kind of touch then on, you've had great success obviously the last couple of years in the league. You've spoke about the Junior Cup, which the club haven't won. Is there, I suppose, added incentive to create a bit of history there? You've done that with being, winning the first league titles. Or do you just, as you said, do you just take it game by game, or do you have a wee eye on the Junior Cup? Because it is kind of it's almost like I suppose it's almost like the European Cup, Champions League of football, of junior football.
Yeah, look, it's the Junior Cup. We call it the Blue Ribbon event for a reason. It's the Holy Grail, for junior football locally. Yeah, look, I never won it, Niall, personally. So when there's something you haven't won in your career, obviously there's always going to be extra motivation to try and get there and try and achieve that milestone. But again, as I said, I don't put too much focus on it. For me, and this is how I view it anyway, it's the league for me is the bread and butter, and I think it's about focusing on the cliche of the next game, because the next game is no lesser important than the game after, the game after, the game after. So when you start thinking too far ahead, you kind of take your eyes off the most important thing and the thing that needs your priority. So, but look, as I said, the furthest I've got is the final with Tummery. And obviously that was under, as I said, kind of controversial circumstances, and it probably wasn't the spectacle it should have been. It didn't take place at Windsor Park. It took place locally. It was delayed by X number of weeks. When it wasn't, and it just never got the kind of razzmatazz that it should have got, that the likes of Rangers and Harps and Lisbon and even Enniskillen Town, those other teams that have went on to win it or not win it or been in the final the last 15 years or whatever, they all got that opportunity, and I think that there's a wee bit of a bad taste regarding that. So look, no, here great opportunity, and we come up against a really good Coal Island team, and again, a bit like Saturday there, no excuses, the best team won. And I would have tipped them then after that, because they were the best team we played last year. So that's the standard. They've set the standard, so we know their baseline, and they're the team to beat this year. And if we don't match that, then we'll fall short again. So that's, I suppose, how I will try and get the lads up to that level, and use that performance last year as our baseline in the Junior Cup, and we just take it from there. So I know we have a Mid-Ulster team next, and the Division 1. So look, there's no easy games, and I think the Fermanagh Western is probably one of the better leagues for setting you up for the Junior Cup, because in any given week there's no given result. Anybody can beat anybody, and that's genuinely how it is. You'll see it if you look back at any of the fixtures this year. There's been upsets and teams expecting to beat other teams, but they didn't get the results. So the quality of Fermanagh Western kind of sets us up in a better position, that we are able to cope with the Junior Cup slightly better, I think, because their standard is higher. And that's not, I'm not talking about all leagues, I'm only talking about the Fermanagh Western, and how it sets it up. So yeah, it is a goal of mine personally, but it's not something I focus on too much, or focus on it or prioritise it over the league or the Mulhern Cup. Because to me, everything you're in, you want to try and win.
And as you said, you've Sandy Hill then in the third round, so you've got a home tie there, which is always handy. So you'll be looking to take advantage of that. So, Ren, we're going to rattle on then with the Keepie Uppies, which I'm sure was tough, and no doubt you'll probably insult a few people, but you can't keep everybody happy. So we're going to get things kicked off with it then. Let me get it up here. So, first one, I think I might know the answer to this one. So you can answer this, whether it can be rating the players that you've played with, managed, whatever.
Okay.
So best team you've ever played for?
That is tough. I'm not going to sit in the fence here, but there's probably two. It was the double winning team with Enniskillen Town 2012-13, and surprisingly, in terms of a talented team, was the team of 2018-19. Under Jerry Love, which we won the Mulhern, but we were runner up in the junior and the league. I'd probably say on paper that was probably the 2018-19 Tummery team was a better team. It had everything. It had everything. It had the best team I ever played in. And don't disrespect the double winning team, it was excellent as well. But just it didn't win what it should have won for the quality that it had. So no, I would go probably the best team on paper and talent and what I enjoyed playing in probably was that 18-19 Tummery team.
Okay, and next two then, what about best captain and best goal scorer?
Best captain, I have to reference one or two. Matt McCauley at Enniskillen Town was a really good captain. Matt was led by example, hard as nails, would go through a brick wall. Really good midfielder, box to box, fast, strong, good in the air. And probably not seen as captain material is probably not the right word, but when he was made captain by Rory, he was a leader, and he was a really good leader by example. So reference Matt, but the best would have to be for me, just knowing him as a person, as a player, and everything he does, is Jerry McCullough at Tummery. And it's probably no surprise that anybody listening to the podcast will hear me say that. The man just exudes leadership. When he speaks, everybody listens. He leads by example. Like he's played for me this year, and he's 41, 42. Probably won't want me saying that, and he's still as in good a condition as he was probably 5-10 years ago. So that's the measure of the man, and he would never say no matter what. So my best captain would be Jerry McCullough.
And then what about best goal scorer?
This is probably one of the simpler ones for me, is Gary Beckett. Gary came back to play for Enniskillen Town and he was just unbelievable. Niall, he doesn't need me to talk about him. He lets his career and his football talk for himself. But the man come into the twilight of his career and actually absolutely run a league. And I don't know what he scored, 40 something goals, I think. One of the seasons, or maybe more than one. Absolutely unbelievable goal scorer. And I like the reference Rory Sludden as well. That 18-19 team that I'm talking about that year, Rolo as we call him, who's moved the ball in the manor now, he couldn't miss. He just, every chance he got, he was banging them in. But no, best goal scorer for me is Gary.
And Gary Baggett, he isn't by any chance over 35. He doesn't fancy joining Oxford Sunnyside over 35 / veterans, no?
I'll tell you, Niall, Gary was over 35 when he was playing for that Enniskillen Town team. At a number 9, and he was scoring 40 plus goals a game. Yeah, unbelievable.
So next two then, the player with the best touch and your best goalkeeper.
Best touch was tough because I think when we think about this, there's two, and I always kind of think of two because it's only really had two clubs. So Malachi McLaughlin, as wee Mal, we know him at Tummery's in Doha at the minute, but he could turn you in a phone box. Like his touch is unbelievable. And the other one would be Connor Tumman, and he's known as Flood. Again, silky, and so anybody knows Flood locally, left back, he'd a class touch. So those are the two for best touch. Best keeper was, and this was tight, because Spud, we know, and he's Niall McCrory doesn't ask for Chumry. He got, goalkeeper of the year last year. Chrissy Catterson would have been a really good goalkeeper for Chumry as well. But for me, and he's come back out of a sabbatical away there, and he played for Enniskillen Town on Saturday, was Pat Cadden. Absolutely, Pat the Cat. Brilliant goalkeeper, left foot, a wand. You could actually, if he kept himself in good condition, and he's not in good condition, he could play out.
He's not.
No, he is. He just, Pat will know what I'm on about. He could play outfield. He's a wand of a left foot, but he's great hands, great shot stopper, communicator. Pat's the best keeper for me.
It's funny how the lefties always get a left foot like a wand, but us righties never get that. I don't know what that is.
No,
and then somebody said this in a previous podcast. He has a left foot on him like a Hoover. It's like, what? I've never even heard that one before. But there you are. I've used it a few times since. Right, next couple then. Next three. And I want nicknames as well because I'm loving the nicknames so far.
That's right.
Your best defender, best midfielder, and best striker.
Best defender, and he probably will get another one further on down, is Kieran Chunky Beacom. Chunky.
What condition is he in?
He's fine condition. Chunky's not chunky, so he's not. But Chunky's a big unit, and Chunky, you wouldn't mess with Chunky. He's a no-nonsense defender. Pours his heart in his sleeve. Gives everything on a Saturday. Now he's one of the players that he won Players Player and Fans Supporters Player last year for Chumray, and he's not playing. He couldn't commit this year, but Chunk got better with age, and he's just a Rolls Royce defender, all or nothing, but really silky on the ball as well, and deceptively good. Kind of like a Matip. He goes on a Matip run now and again, and he's got an eye for a goal. Was dangerous from set piece. So best defender is Kieran Chunky Beacom. Funny is his brother. Best midfielder for me would be Cahill Beacom. Cahill obviously played in the Irish League with Ballymanor. He's one of my best friends. Best man for me. But I'm calling Cahill the best midfielder because when I was in a partnership with him, and when we were in our youth, or we were together at Chumry there for the 1 or 2 seasons, it was just one of the best partners I had. Really loved playing with him, but a top class midfielder. Mightn't like doing the doggy runs, or he mightn't cover the runner that often, but unbelievable on the ball, creativity, could pass it left to right. He's a wand of a left foot, can score outside, inside, with his head, from distance, free kicks, penalties, just your goal scoring midfielder. So I went with Cahill. And best striker, and it probably ties him with best goal scorer. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to change these, but it's Gary again. Gary was a goal machine. Gary would tell you he's a goal machine as well. So that was probably one of the things. Gary could always talk the talk, but he could always walk the walk. So but Gary definitely was my best striker I've played with.
Brilliant. And who's the best lefty and best righty?
I'm gonna give a couple of mentions here. Best lefty, I'd have to give McCaff a mention. It's Edie McCaffrey at Tummery. He'd be the captain of Tummery at the minute. He'd be giving me a dig if I didn't mention him. McCaff is a fine left foot. He's up there probably with Cahill as well, just for pure striking ability. Again, just quality from set pieces, can score from distance, and has scored some wonderful goals. So I'd probably go with McCaff. Dave McCaff a mention in this one.
And then your best righty?
Best righty was hard, Niall, as you said. There's no one actually really stood out for me in terms of sheer ability or somebody. Like, you always hear Wand of a left foot. You rarely hear Wand of a right foot. I know he had a couple here before, and I just think just how good he was at scoring goals. I've given it to Gary because some of the range of goals that he'd scored that time with Enniskillen Town, I just thought was unbelievable. You know, he could finesse it, dink it, he could curl it into the corner, he could fire one in with a volley, you know, he could drill it in. He just had all the different inside, outside of the boot. You know, he had all the different finishes. So I'll go with Gary with the best right foot.
Fantastic. What about best manager? I know you've played with quite a few managers, some top managers, but you can go with a couple of you want, or who's the one that sticks out?
You know what? I've played. It's funny. So I've only actually had three because you know, and talking to senior football, if I go back into reserve and youth, obviously I've had loads. You know, so if I think of probably from the senior ones, you know, of a Jerry Love, Rory Judge, and Benny McElhone, it's hard to pick between any of them, to be honest. Niall, I wouldn't say there's a best, but I've pulled the best qualities from them all, and you know, and again, can be used that in my own player manager style, but I've also pulled some of their more negative traits and tried to implement them in a reverse kind of way in my own manager style, if you understand that. So look, I enjoyed playing all for various reasons, and so that's just going to kind of sit in the fence of that one. If that's how I went after that one.
That's fair enough. No, it's always a tough one to answer. What about the next two then? Player that loves a hard challenge, and also who's the quickest player?
I would say loves a hard challenge. Ooh, two Matties. There's Matt McCauley that I mentioned would have been best captain. Matt could hit you hard, definitely. And the other one, and I only got to see this in full force the last 6 months of last season, was Matty Callahan. Matty's a pocket rocket. He's small in stature, but I'll tell you that man could hit. And the thing with the both of them, 9 times out of 10, it was hard but fair, and that's the two Matties for Love's. The quickest player is Emmett McNabb. I've never seen acceleration from a standing start like it. Emmett is an unbelievable soccer player, football player, GAA players as well, and unbelievable ability. But he's not only quick, Niall, over 10. You know, you get him over 30 or 40. He's just the same. And he's no different with the ball at his feet. So quickest player is Emmett.
And then last couple to go then, best all-round player, and then the player that got better with age.
Best all-round player was tough because for me, I would probably say it from the eye of a midfielder, and I kind of didn't really want to do that. I've kind of just, for me, best all-round, I went for the most talented player, somebody that I thought was just could make it at 2 or 3 levels above that he is now, and that's Emmett. Emmett is obviously a big passion for Gaelic, and you know, he was with the rugby first team for a while the year before last, and then he got subsequently called into the throne panel after he'd done so well for Dromore and their championship winning team. But for natural ability and talent, he is just unbelievable. Some of the things he does in training, I just have to rub my eyes, you know. So Emmett for me, I would call that one not best all round, say the most talented. that I've seen and have trained with and played with would be Emmett, definitely. Got better with age. I'll go back to Chunky. Chunky was probably underappreciated in his earlier years, and he probably was chunkier than he is now, but he was never chunky, so I'll go with Chunk. He was Rolls Royce last year, and I used that term earlier. He's Chunk's same age as me. He's 33, 34, but he's in the shape of his life. And last year, you don't get players player and supporters player, and that says it all. And it's just a pity that work and family commitments hadn't allowed him to play again this year, because he's in the condition and he's in the form. So definitely a big loss.
Again, Chunk, you're only a couple of years away from over 35, so if you fancy just heading up the motorway, more than welcome, Chunky. We don't even care if you even are chunky. We'll accept you, because I think that's how you qualify for over 35 football, to be honest. The chunkier, the better. And then last one, player who always gives 100%.
I have to mention this person because he does. For me, that's who, if I was asking somebody to think about me as a player, I would always think somebody would say that about me, just a player that always gives 100%, but a person that I played with, he's a friend, played with him in 2 codes, is Gary Lynch. Not only does he give 100%, he is absolutely brilliant crack in the changing room, and he is unbelievable value. So he gives us everything on the pitch, and he can just switch on and off. Before games, he's cool, calm, having the crack with the lads, getting the banter going, a great man for the change room. But on the pitch, he gave everything, and he never stopped, and he never did. And Gary would be 36, 37. So Lyncho, or Lynchy, or Bling, as he's also known as, you like the nicknames, Niall. He always gave 100%, and he's as good a shape now, 36, 37, than he was probably 10 years ago as well. So that's a credit to him.
Brilliant. And I suppose you realise even more as a manager that you need a few blings in your group, for the dynamics, when things maybe are, when even things are going well, you need somebody to kind of relax the boys. But equally, I suppose when things aren't going so well, you need those couple of blings just to lighten the mood and whatnot. So fantastic. I think that's what we're going to do from now on when we're doing the Keepie Uppies, just nicknames.
Nicknames only?
Yeah, strictly nicknames. So we're going to finish off then with the Wheel of Burba, which we're going to spin the imaginary wheel, and it's going to stop on a hotly contentious talking point. So I'm just spinning the wheel here, Ryan. Just waiting till it stops here. Right, it's just stopped. So following the recent red card to our hero Jurgen Klopp, plus the altercation between Thomas Tuchel and Conte earlier in the season, do you think football managers should remain on the sideline, or like rugby, possibly be positioned in the stand? What's your take on it?
100% remain on the sideline. Nail, 100%. And I have a small issue with this, and that I suppose it is at that professional level in media, trying to dilute and make everybody the same. You see interviews after the game or before the game, and they're nearly a clone of the next player, the next manager, because they're all getting trained and they're all getting to say the same things. I love that passion. I have to admit, I know it crosses the line, maybe Klopp in the face of the lino or whatever it was, and that is. But the normal man, the punter, the neutral, the fan supporting that team, you're telling me that they don't want to see that from the manager that's trying to get the best out of the players on that pitch? I don't know how any fan or any player would resonate with it. I know rugby's a different sport, I'm not comparing the two, but from passion alone, and just to communicate, I think players need that visual player or manager on the sideline to be vocal, and to be in the heat of battle with them. I just think it's to be visible like that. Players will respond to that, and the fans do as well. To be honest with you, I think the Conte and Tuchel thing was brilliant. That's just heart in the sleeve, heat of the moment, heat of the battle, went toe to toe, and the two boys just had words to say, and like man to man or woman to woman, whatever it is, you say what you have to say, and that's it. So I love it. I think it's one of the better things having managers on the sidelines, we get obviously the Premiership, and we get the media, and we get the zoomed in coverage of it, which is great. And I think, as much as everybody loves the calm, cool, Ancelotti, and drinks his coffee and watches goals go in, to me, having a manager with passion and fire, and I think it's great. Now, I do have to say, rugby is a very much a tactical sport, as is football. So I can see the benefit from that, not a bird's eye view, but the higher view for the setup, the systems, how they can change it. And I can see how that works, and maybe that sport is different in the nature that those boys are getting hit, and they're getting hit hard, and it's a totally different kind of battle. And they might need the passion from the line to get their head squashed between another man's head or whatever it is, So they're maybe already fired up, and they don't need that. But I definitely think that the passion that the managers bring on the sideline cannot go, and I would promote more of it, just channeled. And the same with interviews. I think they need to be less structured and more just fly by the seat of your pants and just say what's on your mind, and you'll get far more appreciation for it, to be honest.
Argued some fantastic points there, yeah. I have to be honest, I love the Tuchel and Conte, because you just knew something was going to boil over, because obviously they had a bit of a spat for probably 15-20 minutes before that, but I thought it was brilliant. And then all the videos that was created, flip me 5-10 minutes after the final whistle, the Strictly Come Dancing music in the background, and I thought it was brilliant the way it was great to see. Jurgen Klopp, I think he didn't probably. He stepped over the line, just screaming in the linesman's face, to be honest. But it was a bit of a joke decision. But still, you can't do that. But you're right. I wondered, would football managers get more out of it? By being able to look at the game in that bird's eye view. But then are you losing something on the sideline? Is players actually hear what they're instructing at? I don't know, but. I kind of side with you. I think I would prefer them. I can see the benefits of maybe having them a bit, maybe out of the road a wee bit, and overseeing better, maybe overview of the game and for tactics and making changes. But at the same time, there's some. I remember even the Mourinho, Arsene Wenger pushing in like it was handbags. It must have been about 10 years ago. That was class, and I think it was Kenny Dalglish and Arsene Wenger had a bit of a spat as well after a game, but yeah, I think maybe Jurgen just
he did
stepped over the line a wee bit. But sure, these things happen. He's a passionate guy. There's no doubt about it.
I think Niall, you need personality. That's the thing, and I think we don't see that enough anymore. I keep going back to the interview thing. Everybody's the mold of the same. And I think when you can see somebody and see their own personality, I think you have a bit more respect for them, and they're honest and open. And now, and just to make the point, and I know we're kind of running out of time, but it's just the respect for the referee thing and the line over the Klopp 100% stepped over the line, and we see, just locally we're struggling to get referees and linos, and don't condone that behaviour at all. So look to the players and have passion, and the other managers or whatever it is, as long as it doesn't spill over. But so towards the linos and officials, it's not nice, and it's there's no class about that at all. So passion, all for it, as long as it's channeled in the right way.
100%. Well, Ryan, thanks a million for taking the time out. You've given us more than enough time there to give us the lowdown on your own career, your special memories, Tummery, and hopefully what you go on to achieve this season. I know you had a disappointing defeat at the weekend, but no doubt you'll bounce back, and plenty of football to be played. I've tipped you for the Junior Cup. Richie didn't. I can't remember who Richie picked actually, but I think it's a disgrace. So no pressure then. So don't be letting me down. But here, all the best for the rest of the season. Fingers crossed our team, Liverpool, pick things up. But I'm not counting on it. And again, thanks a million for joining us. Fantastic.
Brilliant, Niall. Really appreciate the invite. Appreciate the discussion. Good crack. And all the best for any further podcasts and guests you've on. I'd highly recommend it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, here, you look after yourself, and good luck in your Junior Cup game against Sandy Hill.
Will do. Thanks,
All
Niall.
right. See you night.
Keepie Uppies with Richie and Tots.